I know that comparing our situation to Idiocracy and the Twilight Zone is cliche now, but there's really no metaphor that is strong enough to depict just how crazy things are. This from Newsweek magazine. Donald Trump might not have been shot after all, they say. What are you going to believe? Your lying eyes or what the liberal media tells you happened that day? There is a ridiculous conspiracy theory spread amongst the left on Twitter, and now it is leaked into MSNBC and Newsweek, and even the director of the FBI, Christopher Wray, is parroting this fake news because, of course, he himself is an Operation Mockingbird asset, claiming that, well, he really wasn't shot. The bullet may have just hit one of the teleprompters, and then it was a piece of glass that hit him, and he's lying about being shot, and the whole bandage is fake, too. But 10 seconds worth of research, not 2 seconds, but 10 seconds of research would debunk that ridiculous idea. Like Brick Suit, who's a popular Trump guy who goes to all the rallies wearing a brick suit symbolizing the wall. He took this photo of that event that day after Trump was shot and rushed off stage, noting that the two teleprompters stood there perfectly fine. Not to mention this famous photograph captured by, I think, an Associated Press photographer, one of these brand name photographers, who captured the bullet a split second before it hit Donald Trump. They're so insane that many believe that a video that was posted of Trump golfing, which was recorded much, much earlier, but it was posted Sunday, the day after he was shot, showing he didn't have a bandage on and saying, oh, look at this, he was shot Saturday and he's out golfing on Sunday, it's amazing. So then the left started claiming that the whole thing was fake because, well, his ear's just fine and he doesn't have a bandage, because they're so dumb that they couldn't understand that it was a fake video, that it was a video from previously, and that somebody just falsely labeled it. Then when he showed up at the convention a couple days later wearing his bandage, they just couldn't compute. They thought that they'd captured him. They thought they caught him in the act out golfing without the bandage, and now he's been caught red-handed, faking it.
This is so crazy. He drives every drive. He bumps it. I mean, look at that.
That's a perfect drive. Yeah, but it was 50 yards further.
Golf is easy when you get it drives like that, I'm telling you.
What's up, guys? Your boy, Benny. I will never pretend to be something that I'm not, and something that I'm not is a sports guy, okay? I don't play golf. The closest I came to playing golf was actually at Trump Doral, of all places, because we went there for our Trump Cribs episodes, and we showed you what it was like at Trump Doral playing golf. Now, this is something that was actually really an awesome experience, but it also lends to the president's love of the game of golf, and that like universe is something that I can blend together. Okay, so Donald Trump plus golf is something that I can get down with. All right, now that's like the intersection of where we're at. Like memes like this of President Trump posting this on Truth Social. Is it memes like this that got Joe Biden to drop out? It probably is. Bam. Bonk. Yeah. Donald Trump at Doral making fun of Joe Biden. Here's a watch him send a bomb here. Soleimani style. Boom.
Oh, I get up there. Swing looks like 4 more years.
Oh, yeah. Do you think Biden can do that? He can't reach the tee.
This is a man who is a very successful golfer. His name is Bryson DeChambeau. He's from America. He's an American golfer. He's from Modesto, California. He's number 3 in the world right now. So he's one of the best golfers out there. And he's got a successful little career going. He decided to golf with President Trump for charity. That video is the #1 video on all of YouTube right now. #1 trending video on all of YouTube. Okay, with almost 7 million views. And he's got a rip-roaring channel. It is an incredible video. And what most people are saying about this video is that Donald Trump's a freaking awesome golfer because he's golfing with one of the best golfers on earth. Not political, so avoid the nonsense. I watched Bryson break 50 with Trump. They landed on 50. Most shocking development. Trump ain't lying about his golf game. He's solid. Had solo birdie, solo eagle. Every drive was down the middle. Solid putter. I thought Despite what some people are saying, Trump putted extremely well with Bryson. Sure, only a couple dropped, but he never left himself a foot to come back really solid. So golfers, like golf guys, are clearly very impressed with this. Trump played incredibly well with Bryson, driving irons, putts too. Soloed both eagle and birdie, red tee format. Drew spin, force, and will shove the putt left and in. Everybody watched him play with Bryson. Very impressive. Okay. So my team was impressed with this, the golfers on our team, and put together the compilation of the best of from Bryson and Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy, and more of this, okay? This is kind of humanizing stuff that we need right now. Maybe I'll start golfing someday when I stop working. See ya.
Oh, beautiful. Come on. Oh, what a shot! Partner! Great shot. That's how you do it right there.
Benny Johnson lives in Florida. He should take up golf. He could have a lot of fun because it's like one of those things you don't have to be good at it to have fun. And it was the weekend, so I did get to watch Bryson and Trump play. That video is like it's like an hour, but if you play it on double speed, it's shorter. So when you slow it down for the putts and stuff, it's remarkable how a former president of the United States can play alongside a pro player of that caliber, and like shot for shot, they're very close to each other. And then several times Bryson says the president just got inside him, meaning his ball's closer to the hole. But if you listen as a novice, there's a lot of funny language in golf speak that is spoken during that video, so you can get some laughs on that too. So with that, that's kind of the introduction to our Trump section. There's a guy playing golf, looks like he doesn't have a care in the world, and they tried to blow his head off a couple weeks ago. So we're going to look into that. Now, when we last left you guys last week, they were about to have a hearing on Monday. So when we ended the show, they started the hearing. I watched the hearing, and I thought, oh, geez, the show card's full for the week already because there are so many clips. So we're not going to be able to play the entirety of all the hit pieces and the money shots from Monday's hearing. But I did grab a select assortment of commentary on the qualifications and fitness of the United States Secret Service director. And it's pretty interesting. So we're going to go into that block. Right now, we're going to start off with Jim Jordan, but there's several remarkable Congress critters that have some interesting things to say. So let's go to the hearing on the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, and let's learn more about the murderer who was named Thomas Crooks, allegedly.
Gentleman, years back. Chair now recognizes Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Mr. Jordan from Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, were you guessing or lying? The day after President Trump is shot, Secret Service spokesman Anthony Guglielmi said, quote, "The assertion that a member of the former president's security team requested additional security resources that the U.S. Secret Service or the Department of Homeland Security rebuffed is absolutely false." The next day, Secretary Mayorkas said, "That is an unequivocally false assertion. We had not received any request for additional security measures that were rebuffed." But 5 days later, the Washington Post said this: "Top officials repeatedly rejected requests from Donald Trump's security detail for more personnel." The next day, the New York Times said this: "Mr. Guglielmi acknowledged that the Secret Service had turned down some requests for additional federal security assets for Mr. Trump's detail." So which is it? Because both statements can't be true. Were you guessing or lying when you said you didn't turn down requests from President Trump's detail?
Neither, sir, and I appreciate the question.
Well, what were you doing? Because those statements don't jive.
So what I can tell you is that for the event in Butler, there were no requests that were denied. As far as requests...
Well, maybe they got tired of asking. Maybe you turned them down so darn much, they said, not worth asking. How many times did you turn them down ahead of that?
I think that it is important to distinguish between what some people may view as a denial of an asset or a request.
Well, is Mr. Guglielmi your spokesperson? He said he acknowledged the Secret Service had turned down some requests. I'm asking how many?
A denial of a request does not equal a vulnerability.
Well, tell me what it is.
There are a number of ways that threats and risks can be mitigated. with a number of different assets, whether that be through personnel, whether that be through technology or other resources.
Well, tell the committee which it was. They asked for additional help in some form or another. You told them no. How many times did you tell them no, and what did you tell them no to?
Again, I cannot speak to specific incidents, but I can tell you in general terms, the Secret Service is judicious with their resources based on...
What does some requests mean? How many times? Some indicate requests is plural. So more than once they asked for additional help and you turned them down. What did they ask for and how many times did you turn them down? Pretty basic questions.
So again, without having all of the details in front of me, sir, what I can tell you is that there are times...
You didn't get briefed on how many times you turned down the Trump detail when they asked for additional help?
I'm sorry.
You didn't get briefed on that before you came to this hearing, knowing you were going to get asked that question?
What I can tell you is that in generic terms, when details make a request, there are times that there are alternate ways to cover off on that threat or that risk.
But that's not what he said. He said they were denied certain requests, some requests. This is your spokesperson, not me talking. This is the Secret Service talking. And what a change from absolutely false, unequivocally false to, oh, by the way, there were some times where we didn't give them what they wanted. That's a huge change in 5 days. And the fact that you can't answer how many times you did that, that's pretty darn frustrating, not just for me, but for the country.
I hear your frustration.
Let me ask you this. Were any of those requests denied to President Trump's detail after you knew about the Iranian threat?
What I can tell you, again, I don't know the specifics, is that there are times when we can fill a request. It doesn't necessarily have to be with a Secret Service asset or resource. We can fill that request with locally available assets.
You spoke to anyone at the White House since July 13th?
Yes, I have.
Who'd you talk to?
I have briefed the president and the vice president.
Talked to the First Lady?
No, I have not.
Talked to the White House staff? Anyone in the White House communications?
No, I have not.
Have you talked to the counter sniper who took the shot that took out the bad guy?
Yes, I have.
And can you tell us about that conversation?
I would not want to reveal conversations that I've had with my employees.
But that's exactly the kind of information the American people want to know. American people who pay your salary.
I understand. This is an ongoing investigation. And
Who's all doing the investigating at Secret Service? I know the Inspector General, but is there also an internal investigation in addition to the Inspector General?
We are conducting a mission assurance investigation internally, yes.
You know what it looks like, Director? It looks like you won't answer some pretty basic questions. It looks like you got a 9% raise and you cut corners when it came to protecting one of the most important individuals, most well-known individuals on the planet. A former president, likely the guy who's going to be the next president. Looks like you guys were cutting corners. That's what it looks like to me. Is that true?
I am here today because I want to answer questions, but I also want to be cautious.
You might want to, but you haven't answered, I don't think you've answered one question from the chairman, the ranking member, or me. Well, we got a lot of other people asking. We'll see if your record improves, but right now you haven't answered, I don't think, any questions. I yield back.
I have to say, Director, we're pretty close to the halfway point during this. You answered more questions with an ABC reporter than you have with members of Congress. So we have a lot more questions. The American people are demanding that we get answers to those questions, and that's what the purpose of this hearing is today. So I'm sure a lot of the questions that have already been asked are going to be asked again, and hopefully we can get some answers to those questions. I strongly implore you to answer those questions. You're here with a subpoena, and we expect you to answer the questions. Chair now recognizes Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Cheatle, the American people are watching, and they're wondering if there are any questions you can answer honestly today. So, Director Cheatle, I have a series of questions, very specific questions. I want very specific answers. Most of my questions are going to demand a yes or no answer. Do you understand?
I do.
Okay, my first question. Both sides of the aisle today have asked for your resignation. Would you like to use my 5 minutes to draft your resignation letter, yes or no?
No, thank you.
Was this a colossal failure?
It was a failure.
Yes or no? Was it a colossal failure is the question, yes or no?
I have admitted this is a terrible...
This is a yes or no series of questions. Was this a colossal failure, yes or no?
Yes.
Was this tragedy preventable, yes or no?
Yes.
Has the Secret Service been transparent with this committee?
Yes.
Would you say the fact that we had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today as being transparent? Yes or no?
I have always been
yes or no. You didn't want to answer the question.
Committee.
We had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today. That is not transparent, by the way. You stated earlier, Secret Service is not political. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say leaking your opening statement to Punchbowl News, Politico's Playbook, and Washington Post several hours before you sent it to this committee as being political? Yes or no?
I have no idea how my statement got out.
Well, that's bullshit. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record articles by Punchbowl News, Political Playbook, Washington Post, all done at 5:24 a.m., 6:12 a.m., 6:34 a.m., a solid 3 to 4 hours before this committee got your statement.
Without objection, so ordered.
Okay. Is the Secret Service fully cooperating with our committee?
Yes.
Okay, you say you're fully cooperating with this committee. On July 15th, this committee sent you a list of demands of information that we wanted. Has the Secret Service provided this committee a complete list of all law enforcement personnel that were there that day? Have you done that? Have you provided a list to the Oversight Committee? Yes or no?
I will have to get back to you on that.
That is a no. Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th? Yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
Chairman, I want to.
Come on.
We have to maintain decorum in this committee, no matter how upset we get.
Have you provided any and all memos to this committee that we've asked you on July 15th? Have you provided all memorandums within the Secret Service?
I would have to get back to you on
that. That is a no. You are being dishonest or lying. You're being dishonest here with this committee. These are important questions that the American people want answers to, and you're just dodging and talking around it in generalities. And we had to subpoena you to be here, and you won't even answer the questions. We have asked you repeatedly to answer our questions. This isn't hard. These are not hard questions. Have you provided us all communications from the Secret Service related to that day and that rally? Have you provided this committee? We've asked for this information on July 15th. Have you provided any of this information that this committee has asked of the Secret Service? Any of it?
I'll have to get back to you.
Have you even read this letter that we sent you? Did you even read this?
Yes.
Okay. And you have said you don't know, you have no idea. The answer is no. We haven't gotten a single document or piece of information or data from you or your agency in related to the rally that we have asked you for. So was this attempted assassination of Donald Trump a failure of training or execution or both?
I think that those are answers that we need to
Training, execution, or both? Which one?
I think those are answers.
All right. How many Secret Service personnel have lost their jobs due to this colossal failure?
At this time, none.
How many Secret Service personnel have been required to take a refresher course on how not to let people shoot Donald Trump?
Our personnel are currently operational. We are examining the facts of this investigation, and we will make the changes necessary.
What time did law enforcement become aware that there was an individual on the roof with a clear line of sight to President Trump?
I am still verifying timelines.
Of course, 9 days in, you have no answers. How many minutes went by between the time law enforcement saw and took photos of crooks and the shooting? How many minutes?
I am still verifying timelines.
57 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Recognizes Ms. Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Cheatle, I'd like to remind you that you're under oath. The site team has a senior supervisor, an advanced team, a protective intelligence team, a counter sniper element, and detail. Who was the agent in charge? How long has she been the agent in charge? And what is her Secret Service background?
So I'm not going to provide a name.
Why not? You're here to answer our questions.
This forum, I'm not going to provide names of.
You stated in your testimony, you said, I am here today to answer your questions.
That is correct.
Answer the question.
I'm not going to provide names of our personnel.
Why not?
Today.
The American people are demanding these answers from you today, Ms. Cheatle.
I will do the best to provide you accurate information based on the facts that I have at this time.
You're not answering our questions. The advance element coordinates with other intel or law enforcement partners, identifies threats and weaknesses at the sites and movements. We'd like a copy of the advance report. Have you brought it here with you today?
We will comply with the request for the documentation that has been requested.
When will that be, Ms. Cheatle? Because you should have brought it today.
I am certain that our personnel are working on obtaining all of that document.
I don't believe you, and neither do the people watching this hearing. You're not doing well, as Mr. Moskowitz informed you. You've been sitting here for over 3 hours, and I have you know the entire country is demanding you resign and demanding that you be fired if you do not resign. Things are not going well for you. You need to answer the questions. Was there a protective intelligence team, and what technical resources were utilized for that event, specifically drone or helicopter assets?
There were a number of technical assets that were deployed for that event, and there was a protective intelligence team that was assigned to that event.
Why was Crooks able to fly a drone over the entire area the day of the rally and the day of his assassination attempt?
To my knowledge, he did not fly the drone over the entire area.
How did he fly a drone over the area, period? Any part of the area?
Again, I would have to go back and check the timeline of when that took place and when the event.
Why didn't you bring the timeline with you today to answer our questions?
I don't have all of the answers on the timelines based on the criminal investigation.
Were you not prepared today to answer our questions?
I am prepared to answer the questions based on the information and wanted to be able to provide.
Do you have a timeline do you have a timeline at all from any of the day?
I have a timeline that does not have specifics.
That's shocking. That is absolutely unacceptable. That means you are a failure at your job. Let's talk about things that are prohibited in Trump rallies. And I've been to a lot of Trump rallies. Backpacks and bags, bicycles, firearms, any type of weapon, or any other item determined to be a potential safety hazard, like a rangefinder would be one. At 5:10, Crooks is first observed by one of the snipers, AGR Sniper 1, at the building. 5:10, President Trump was shot in the face at 6:11 p.m. 5:28, AGR Sniper 1 takes a picture of a bicycle and 2 bags. Those belong to Crooks. 5:32, AGR Sniper 1 spots Crooks looking at his phone and using a rangefinder. 5:55, Butler ESU Command confirms receipt of photos and states they have been relayed on. 6:05 p.m., AGR Sniper 1 later communicates that Crooks is seen moving northeast in direction of Sheetz and that Crooks has a backpack. 2 minutes before the shooting, while President Trump has been allowed to take the stage, people see Crooks laying on his stomach in a sniper position on the roof, and they're yelling he has a gun, and they are trying to alert law enforcement and Secret Service. Why was Crooks not shot by the snipers? Why was he allowed to be there?
As soon as the individual was identified as a threat, they were...
No. What do you consider to be a threat? A man with a gun laying in a sniper position, a man that had a backpack, a man that had a bicycle, a man that had a rangefinder. At what point is he determined a threat?
An individual with a backpack is not a threat. An individual with a rangefinder is not a threat.
What about a man laying on a building that has direct line of sight of President Trump with a gun that people are screaming and pointing out? Is that a threat, Ms. Cheatle?
Once that individual was identified, they were neutralized.
No, they were neutralized. Crooks was neutralized after he shot President Trump in the face, Ms. Cheatle. Is he only a threat once he fires the weapon?
As soon as the counter sniper identified that individual, they were able to neutralize them.
How were people in the crowd? Okay, then let's just take it this way. People under your command did not consider him to be a threat, yet people in the crowd knew he had a gun and considered him to be a threat. That means that you are a complete failure as the director of the Secret Service, that people under your command don't perceive a man laying on a roof with direct line to the president with a gun. They don't perceive that to be a threat, yet the people in the crowd do. How is that possible?
That's the last question, but please answer the question, Ms. Director.
I'm not certain at this time how the information from the people in the crowd was relayed to any law enforcement personnel.
No, you knew, that everyone knew. The people there knew that there was a danger. They knew there was a threat to President Trump, and it was allowed to happen. Was there a stand-down order, Ms. Cheatle? No. Was there a conspiracy to kill President Trump?
Absolutely not.
Then how did this happen? And why are you still sitting here not turning in your letter of resignation?
Last question, but please answer, and then I'll recognize Ms. Presley. Please answer the question. Director.
That is what we are investigating to determine.
We're waiting for your letter. We are waiting for your letter of resignation, and you really need to consider doing that before you leave today.
Chair now recognizes.
Thank you, Chairman. Director, real quick, at what time was Secret Service aware of the active threat against President Trump? Director, what time?
So the Secret Service was aware that there was an individual who had been identified as suspicious, and that individual was attempting to be tracked down.
At what time?
I don't have a specific timeline other than to tell
Director,
you,
it's been 9 days.
I understand
At what
that.
time?
I want to make sure that I give you factual information, sir.
Director, have you talked to the agents on the ground that day?
Yes, I have.
You've talked to all of them?
Mm-hmm.
Your senior team has talked to every agent that was on the ground that day?
Yes, we have.
Have they all corroborated the same time they identified the shooter or they were made aware of the shooter, either by attendees in the crowd or local police department?
There are a number of reports of when those times were made.
Was it 5 minutes before the first shot rang out?
No.
Generally speaking, was it 10 minutes before the first shot rang out?
No.
Was it 15 minutes before the first shot rang out?
It was less than that time frame when it was identified as a threat.
How many days before the shooting took place did Secret Service actually do their advance work to secure the facility that the rally was going to be held at?
5 days.
In the 5 days prior, when the security advance team did their work, did they identify the rooftop as a potential threat?
Again, I'm pulling those reports and that information.
It's been 9 days, Madam Director. Did they notice a rooftop 150 yards away that was a potential threat? Yes or no?
I am certain that the rooftop was noticed. I am pulling the reports.
What was the security parameters around securing that rooftop? What did they do?
There was overwatch provided for that rooftop.
Did overwatch fail?
I am waiting to hear what the results of the investigation were so that I can identify where the failure was.
Who did you talk to that was on the ground that day that was responsible for overwatch? What are their names?
I'm not going to provide their names in this setting.
Did you talk to the people that were providing overwatch that day?
I've talked to the people that conducted the advance on that day and that were working the shift and were the counter snipers on that day.
So you talked to the counter sniper team, you talked to the people who were providing overwatch that day, and you talked to the advance team, correct?
Yes, sir.
What did they tell you?
We are putting together a comprehensive report so that I can identify exactly where the gaps and the failures.
When the counter sniper team was on the roof and they identified that there was suspicious activity on the roof in question, what was the chain of command's orders around the person on said roof? Because I'm quite sure somebody saw under your organization, the Secret Service, I'm quite sure somebody saw the shooter on the roof. So what was the communication through the chain of command to deal with said person?
What I can tell you is that when the individual was identified by the counter sniper, they took one shot and neutralized that individual.
But that was after the shooter already took a shot. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So what you're saying now is that the Secret Service did not see the shooter on the roof until after the shooter took a shot?
I do not have all of those details at this time.
If you don't have those details after 9 days, Director, then what you're telling me is that you guys didn't see it. Is that correct?
I am telling you I don't have all the details of the sequence at this time.
Director, it's been 9 days. Either you have the information or you do not. Is that correct?
We are still in the process of conducting interviews and an investigation.
Some of my colleagues have texted me over the last couple days, bipartisan, about whether you should lose your job. And I've been quiet on that question because I wanted to see what you were going to do today. In my opinion, you do need to be fired immediately. And it is because this is gross incompetence. And the fact that it's been 9 days, and these are simple questions to answer, I'm quite sure if I asked any one of my kids if they got in trouble and I told them to give me the details, I would get more answers from them than I'm getting from you right now. And that's what's frustrating on a bipartisan basis, on a nonpartisan basis. This is a joke. And Director, you're in charge. And that's why you need to go. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Director Cheatle, how long have you been with the Secret Service? 29 years, right?
That's correct.
And how long have you been Director of the Secret Service?
Just under 2 years.
During your tenure as Director under the Secret Service, I know we're here today to talk about the assassination attempt on President Trump, but how many other security lapses have occurred with protectees under your watch?
I don't have a specific number, but there have been some lapses.
There have been other lapses. Was one of them Jake Sullivan?
Yes, sir.
What happened there?
There was an individual who was able to access Mr. Sullivan's residence.
His residence? A protectee, somebody was able to break into his house. And what happened? Did anyone get fired because of that?
There were individuals who have been reassigned.
Reassigned. What other steps have taken? What I'm seeing. What other incidents have occurred other than Jake Sullivan? Was there an issue with the Secret Service agent and Vice President Harris?
I would not call that a security incident.
Well, it seems to me, I mean, you have security lapses with President Trump. You have security lapses with Jake Sullivan. You have issues with your personnel related to Vice President Kamala Harris. There seems to be a repeated theme here. Would you not agree with that?
I think that we are talking about separate categories of incidents.
Well, I would disagree with that. I think there's a repeated theme when you've got protectees and you're not upholding your core mission. Let me ask you something else. Does the Secret Service routinely record communications between and amongst detail?
Radio communications?
Any communication.
Well, email communications are captured, as well as text messages, and then depending on the detail, radio communications are recorded.
Does the Secret Service have recorded communications from the July 13th event?
We do not have radio communications from that day.
But you have text messages?
We do have emails and text messages.
Emails, okay, great. Does the head of the Trump detail or someone else embedded in this detail have command decision-making authority, or do they need to seek authorization from someone outside that detail?
The head of the detail has the decision-making authority for things that are necessary for that detail.
Is that standard for protection details?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Let me ask you something. During campaign events, is it common for the Secret Service to utilize other agencies?
Yes, it is.
What other agencies would be providing assistance to the Secret Service?
There are a number of other agencies that provide assistance to the Secret Service during campaigns. We utilize personnel from the Department of Homeland Security. We utilize personnel from the Department of Defense, and we utilize local law enforcement partners.
Are you on the same radios? Do you provide the radios to all the assets that are taking part in protection of an event?
We provide radios to the personnel from the Department of Homeland Security that are assisting us.
But not local law enforcement?
Local law enforcement is working on their own radios.
Are you on the same frequency?
We ensure that we have counterparts in the security room, and so the local law enforcement will place one of their personnel in the security room with our personnel so that we have interoperability communications.
Let me ask you something just about the timeline, because I think this is really interesting that we can't nail that down. I mean, I think there are lay people out there with more knowledge about the timeline than you seem to come before a subpoena in front of Congress. Was Mr. Crooks observed at the AGR building prior to the shooting?
He was observed on the grounds outside of our perimeter prior to the shooting.
At approximately what time was that? You don't have to give me the specific minute, but at approximately what time was that?
I believe it was about 45 minutes or so prior to.
Did the sniper team take a photo of Mr. Crooks?
The local team did, yes.
So it was a local team and not a Secret Service sniper?
That took the photo.
Okay. And did he relay that photo to Central Command?
Again, it's an active ongoing investigation, so I want to make sure that I'm factual with the route that photo took and who that was disseminated to.
So we're in the midst of a masterclass on obfuscation being led by Director Cheatle for the time being.
Former director.
We didn't get to that news story yet. That's why.
Oh, sorry.
Like, it's 5 clips away, and then you might see there's a consequence to her actions on Monday. But in that first block of clips, I mean, I thought it was remarkable because it was totally like bipartisan, nonpartisan. There was people from both. Nobody. Like, usually half the side kisses ass and the other side asks questions. This was a hearing. It was wall to wall, hard questions, and people like Nancy Mace calling her out, like, you're full of shit today, and just like, saying it like it is. So it was kind of refreshing a little bit. I don't have too much belief in such things, right? But still, I was trying to keep abreast of what's going on and what the story is and how it's changing, because it seems important.
Yeah, and it seems like, we've seen this all the time with these Senate hearings, right? It's like whether it's like anything related to COVID accountability or like those social media hearings where they had like the Zuckerbergs and all those guys up there. It's like the same PR firm is coaching all of them to say, look, you're going to go up there, they're going to ask you some questions. Just say, I'll get back to you on that. You get your lashings, okay? And then you're done and you're gone. Like, no consequences, nothing ever happens. You're going to be fine. Just get up there, just say, I don't know, or I don't have that information in front of me, or I'll get back to you. And then you just go on your merry way. And then at the end, they all leave and they all go drink children's blood together after this. They all just hang out together. They're all just, it's all just.
I think that's the summary from the page on the masterclass of obfuscation, that they just, they were given a little marketing there. They're like, look at what we can do. She addresses just like a robot, but she's a human being. Look at what they could do with someone just in 28 years.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. I just get frustrated sometimes watching this stuff because it's like, it gives the illusion of accountability, right? They really act like these senators and all these Congress people. Yeah. They speak so, harshly and assertively. It's like they're really trying to get to the bottom of something, but they're not. Nothing ever happens, ever. Nobody ever gets held accountable. There's never
like the bad guy gets away at the end of every episode.
Single time.
And they're like, oh, darn it.
Yeah. Never. And so I don't know, man. It just tells it. It's just frustrating, honestly.
It is.
I don't know.
It is. But I guarantee, like, if you're someone trying to learn about this period in history and you're in the future, these clips are not what they've been telling you happen back at present day. And that's one of the refreshing things that a little Grand Theft World can provide, not just now for live viewers, but it could be quite spicy for people in the future who live in a world that might not have been told to them like it is. And these clips are kind of showing you how it is, how it unfolded. And for the Secret Service to cover up so much for the lone gunman is quite extraordinary. They're running block for somebody, and that somebody that you would say is the lone gunman, he's dead. So there's going to be a lot. The insider trading, the telecom tracking that they did from his devices. There's a whole bunch of evidence that just points right, both hands, to the deep state. And yes, they had a wind-up toy, and that guy's dead now. So you don't even have to worry. What was the quote? Well, he's dead now. So you don't have to worry about it.
So yeah, I don't have to worry about that. I was listening to No Agenda from, I don't know if it was from today or Thursday's episode, but John Dvorak made a good point. He's like, they were putting out these statements how, oh, he had all these encrypted communication apps, but darn, we can't get into them. They're like, let us know what they had missed a great opportunity, because what they should have done is they should have said, he's got these darn tracking apps and we just can't get into them. And then it was Signal, right? But or they just spit out whichever
Same
one
as the Secret Service director. Actually,
yeah, but
that's in a clip coming up.
Well, all they have to do is they have to say the one where they actually do have the backdoor to, but then they just go out there and they say, "Oh, this is the one we can't get into," so now everybody's going to use that one. And
yeah, yeah. The people that, if you follow Signal, because like I have it and I've used it a couple times, but I looked it up when they launched it because I'm like, why is everyone all about Signal? This seems to be like a thing, and it seemed to be a political thing. So I looked into it, and when you go to the Wikipedia page, you can see who created it, and he was like a top Hillary Clinton donor supporter type situation. So it was completely created by that faction, I thought, as a honeypot, which is why I don't really try to use stuff like that unless somebody insists. And even then I hesitate.
Totally.
You don't read my texts.
Yeah, I feel you. So I don't know, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're heading into, there's a couple more pieces of this story, a couple other pieces of the puzzle. You notice in each of these clips, she's not only getting ripped, but you're getting little different pieces of like questions that should be asked and answered that are relatively simple, that she completely avoids and obfuscates. That means she's occulting it in a dark way. She's not trying to educate people. She's not an educator. She's the anti-educator. She's, when I talked about fake alpha males, she's like the fake alpha female. She definitely is not the leader of anything. And she might have been a scapegoat. And like, they know she's focused on DEI and not paying attention. Deep state would use that as an opportunity, right? Shepherd's not watching, take out, some of the flock. We're going to do something over here. So I'm not saying she's culpable or guilty, or she came up with the plan to lap security to create the event that led to him getting shot in the head. But the people who put her in place might have done that.
She might be
the useful tools. Lots of useful tools in the shed. Those places collect useful tools.
Yeah, another patsy.
All right. So now we're heading into this. You're going to get to see Lauren Boebert, Lisa McClain. Pat Fallon. He's got one of the best quotes. And then we'll get to see some of the consequences of that. And then we got a quick promotion for something that might help some of those people who are afflicted by the derangement syndrome out there. We'll try that, because there are people, even the FBI director denied that Trump got shot in the face. He said it might have been shrapnel. I got a question. Shrapnel from what? What was between the barrel of the gun and that dude's ear? Oh, the teleprompter that you can clearly see didn't blow up. It's in the video. Like, what else would have, like, what's the shrapnel, bro? So they had to come out and officially say this week that Trump got shot, because Ray said that in the upcoming hearing. We'll see a clip from that. But there's just the shenanigans, never end. So let's go to Boebert, and she's got some things to say for the U.S. Secret Service director, acting director at the time. Let's say it like that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to continue down that vein. You have been here sitting today, Director Cheatle, definitively able to dismiss erroneous information and speculation. However, you are refusing to answer questions that we now know that you have the information for. You are saying that you are wanting to answer questions that the Secret Service has information to. Well, ma'am, you are the Secret Service. You are the director. You have said that you are the best for the job. So I'm going to ask you some questions now knowing that you do have answers from the FBI, whom you have been passing the buck to this entire day. And I'll start with something that, maybe the FBI doesn't know, because it has to do with you personally. You said you spoke with President Trump after the assassination attempt. And I want to know, did you apologize to him directly for nearly having President Trump killed?
Yes, I did.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that you recognize that this was your failure. Now, since the assassination attempt, you are under oath, reminding you, have you communicated with anyone at the White House on an encrypted messaging app like Signal? Yes or no?
No, I have not.
Are you willing to surrender your personal phone for analysis?
If I am required to do so.
Okay. I will look into making that request because I would like to see your personal phone to see if you're communicating over encrypted messaging apps. Have you ever turned down enhanced security requests from Donald Trump's detail, his special agent in charge, Sean Curran? Have you ever turned that down?
No, I have not.
Have there been, has your team, has the Secret Service? Maybe not you personally.
I believe, as I mentioned earlier, there are times when requests are made for
and you
assets,
have denied them. They have been denied.
And a denial doesn't
Has the Trump campaign made requests for additional assets that have been denied?
Denial doesn't mean vulnerability.
Have there been additional requests for enhanced security at Mar-a-Lago?
We have made a number of enhancements to.
You confirmed that there were bomb-sniffing dogs that were provided. You failed to confirm if there were aerial security surveillance assets that were provided. So yes or no, was that provided?
At the rally?
At the rally, yes, ma'am.
We had Overwatch provided at the rally.
You've confirmed that the assassin was identified as suspicious 57 minutes prior to the shooting. Was the suspicious individual ever approached by an agent? Was any contact ever made with him?
Not to my knowledge.
Is that the standard protocol for someone who is identified as suspicious?
The protocol would be to locate the individual and
you said that he was located 2 to 5 times approximately?
No, I said that the information was passed potentially somewhere between 2 to 5
And he was never located by an agent?
To my knowledge, that individual was not located by an agent.
We have dozens of rally goers who have identified him and not one agent on the ground. There are many, many, many agents on the ground, local law enforcement, Secret Service. No one was able to identify him and have sights on and see him.
What I'm saying is that the agents that were on the ground at the time, I have no knowledge that they were able to interview him or locate him.
Thank you. Was there a local law enforcement officer who approached the roof and saw the shooter and saw that he was present on the roof?
That is the information that has been shared with me.
Have you spoke to that local law enforcement officer?
No, I have not.
Are you going to?
It is part of a criminal investigation that the FBI is interviewing those individuals.
Were agents stationed on the water tower?
No.
Why?
That would not be something that would be included in a security plan.
Has the man who is reported to have been present wearing a gray suit who allegedly requested a photo of the dead body of the assassin on top of the AGR roof been identified?
I don't have that information.
Is that something that you've heard of?
No.
Were ATF agents present at the rally?
To attend or to work?
To work.
Not to my knowledge.
How long did the counter sniper have crooks in his sights before the shooter opened fire on President Trump?
I don't have that specific timeline.
Will you be able to tell us if he communicated with other agents on what he was seeing through his sights?
Once I have that information, absolutely.
Because we need to know why he waited for multiple rounds to be fired at President Trump before the threat was neutralized. We need to know if he was given an order to hold fire. Now, it's you've excused the roof of being unmanned because of the slope of the roof. Do you continue to assert the slope of the roof as a credible reason for leaving this position undefended?
First, I'll go back and correct that there was no order to hold fire. Our agents and officers have the ability to neutralize a threat at the time that they see it.
I'm sorry, you don't know the communication that was taking place or how long he had him in his sights because you haven't spoke to him, but you do know that there was no order to hold fire.
I can tell you the way that our personnel are trained. They are trained on the use of force scale, that when they see a threat, they are authorized to neutralize that threat. They don't have to ask for permission.
You excuse the roof being unmanned because of the slope. Do you stand by that assertion?
The roof was not covered with an individual on it because there was overwatch provided.
Apparently not. No, there was no overwatch provided. This is very evident. President Trump was shot. A man died. There was no oversight provided. I find this rather maddening, especially now knowing that you do have answers from the FBI, who you have been passing the buck to this entire hearing, not answering a congressional hearing, members of Congress, while you are under oath and under a subpoena. I find it maddening that the director, that our country has come centimeters away from oblivion under your watch. You have answers. You are refusing to give those to us, directing us to the FBI, and this entire thing is a waste of time. You are responsible for the loss of a life and the shooting that took place on President Trump. You do need to resign. This is bipartisan. You need to be fired. You do not need to hold this position. You are not the best for this job. I am over my time, but I cannot tolerate your watch any longer, and I'm going to continue to call daily for you to be removed from your position, ma'am.
Alan from Texas.
How did a 20-year-old loner with a week's notice pick the absolute best location to assassinate President Trump when the entire Secret Service missed it? Director Cheatle, in your leadership, your agency got outsmarted and outmaneuvered by a 20-year-old. How can we have any confidence that you could stop a trained professionals from a nefarious nation state?
Those are absolutely questions that we need to have.
I know they're questions, but the fact of the matter is we can't have that confidence. Director, do you have the ability personally, and do you have the authority to beef up security of any of your protectees?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So were you also aware there was a credible threat President Trump was facing? He was facing a heightened security threat to a foreign adversary?
Yes.
Okay. So given that there was an increased threat to President Trump's life, was he provided a full security complement akin to what a sitting U.S. president would receive?
He was provided a full complement of security based on the threat assessment that we had.
That's not my question.
And the venue.
My question is, if he'd been the sitting president, would he have had the same security he had on July 13th, or would have been beefed up?
There is a difference between the sitting president.
So your answer is he didn't?
And continuity of government and the responsibility that we have.
So he did not. Okay, there wasn't a CAT team, a full CAT team on site. There wasn't counter surveillance teams on site. But this is the thing. You just said you had the ability to beef up the security. You knew about the threat, and you didn't. And that's as telling as it is chilling. We have satellite images from the Butler Fairgrounds. Have you visited the site?
No, I have not.
9 days and you have not visited the site. You should have been there that night. Did you talk to, that evening, did you talk to the team, the heroes that surrounded the president? Did you call them that night?
They were still operational work.
So that's an answer is no. Did you call them the next day?
President. Yes, I spoke with
You called them the very next day, not the day of, or was it 72 hours after?
I don't know the timeline, but I spoke with them.
Okay, because you're under oath.
Immediately following.
I think it was 72 hours after. You waited 3 days. What is immediately clear is that there are a number of structures that need to be secured. Of these, Director, other than the first, immediate 4, what's the most dangerous site that should have been secured? Because Security 101, you got to mitigate the high ground.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what the next most dangerous site, what was the closest structure to the president, other than the 4 immediate ones that you had your counter sniper teams on?
There are a number of structures around that event site.
You know who the shooter knew? The shooter has visited the site 2 more times than you have, and he had a drone, and he picked the AGR building. So you said, do you remember in an ABC interview you did that you didn't have people on the roof of the AGR building because you were worried about safety because of the slope?
I recall that statement.
Okay. Does the Secret Service have written policy you can share with us about slope roofs?
No.
Okay. So why'd you act like there was one? Because is it your practice to comment on enormous events of enormous national implications when you're ignorant of the facts? That's rhetorical. So here's this thing with the slopes. You go all up to like 1812. You can go to a 112, which is about as flat as you can get without it being completely flat. And you're saying that there was a danger, safety concern there. But the problem is, Director, you put your counter snipers on a 312 roof, which is steeper than the 112. And by the way, the 112 is ADA compliant. You can build a ramp for a wheelchair on a 112 roof. So these are nothing but pathetic excuses, and they make no sense, and they're a bunch of cow dung. All the law enforcement I've spoken with over the last 9 days are amazed that the AGR rooftop was not secure. And you want to know why? Because it's dangerous. I have never had any long gun training in my life. I own an AR-15, and last time I shot it one time my whole life. It was 6 years ago. That is until Saturday, where we recreated the events in Savoy, Texas, where you recreated what happened in Butler. I was lying prone on a sloped roof at 130 yards at 6:30 at night. And I knew that he had a scope. I didn't know what kind, red dot or magnified. So I shot 8 rounds from both. You know what the result was? 15 out of 16 kill shots. And the one I missed would have hit the president's ear. That's a 94% success rate. And that shooter was a better shot than me. It is a miracle President Trump wasn't killed. Corey Compagnore's life is over because that damn shooter made it on the roof. And it wasn't the roof that was dangerous. It was a nut job on top of the roof. You know what else is dangerous? I believe your horrifying ineptitude and your lack of skilled leadership is a disgrace. Your obfuscating today is shameful. And you should be fired immediately and go back to Garden Doritos. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, I want to thank the Secret Service agents, those who work tirelessly to protect our presidents, and specifically those agents who did not hesitate to jump in front of President Trump. And my heart goes out to the family of the Compagnoре family and the people at the rally who are still recovering. On the other hand, the Secret Service has a leadership problem, and it falls on you. And although I appreciate your hollow words that the buck stops here, I was actually hoping for some answers. Director Cheatle, you must answer to the American people if you want to stay in charge. It's really, really simple. You want to keep your job, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. The best way to keep your job is to answer the questions, not play this shell game, not sing the Slim Shady song, wasn't me. I mean, come on. How long did you prepare for this hearing?
I've been preparing for this hearing over the weekend and into last week.
Okay, 5 days, 6 days?
As soon as I was notified.
And how long was that?
About this hearing.
Okay, 4 days?
I began preparing.
4 days, 3 days?
I'm not sure the date that I got the letter asking me to be here.
What are you sure of? Are you sure the color of your hair? Are you sure the color of your suit? I'm just, like, tell the American people, what are you sure of? You don't even know when you started preparing for the hearing? I mean, the biggest hearing of your life, and you have no clue? You can't remember when you started preparing for this hearing? Can you understand why those words seem hollow to the American people who are supposed to entrust their faith in you?
I assure you, the moment I received notification.
But you can't remember. You got a little Alzheimer's, dementia going? I mean, what, you can't remember.
I have several active investigations going on and an operational agency to run.
Okay. All right. But you want to take accountability, right? The buck stops with you, right?
I am taking accountability.
Super. Then let's start with trying to answer some questions. You keep referring to the FBI. When asked how many shell casings were on the roof, you referred to the FBI. When asked if there were explosives in the car, you referred to the FBI. When asked if Crooks was acting alone, you referred to the FBI. See a common theme here? I can go on and on. My question is, who at the FBI should I speak with? Wait for it. Wait for it.
The FBI is responsible for the criminal investigation.
Is there a name?
I'm not certain.
I'm not certain. All right, here we go. I'm not certain. I don't know. Let me ask a different question. Have you been in communication with the FBI?
Yes, I have.
With whom?
I speak with the director and the deputy director.
Okay. And what have they shared with you about this investigation? So I'll give you an opportunity to answer again. Did they share with you how many shell casings were on the roof?
They have shared with me the evidence.
Did they share with you how many shell casing were on the roof?
Yes.
Okay, how many were there?
I would refer to the FBI for
how many were there?
And their information that they need to share in their investigation.
So they've shared the information with you. You just don't want to share the information with us, correct?
We have concurrent investigations that are going on.
So they have shared this information with you. You know the answer to the question. You just refuse to answer the question from the member of Congress who has subpoenaed you to be here. Is there a different answer to that question?
I was always willing to come here and testify before this oversight hearing.
Beautiful. Then let's do that. Let's for once have your actions match your words. So you've been in communication with the FBI. You know the answers, and you refuse to tell us the answers. So I will ask you again. You know how many shell casings were on that roof. What is the answer to that question?
I think it's pertinent.
What is the answer to that question?
I think it's pertinent to talk to you about the information that the Secret Service has and that the Secret Service knows related
I'm
to the
asking you an
events on that
answer
day.
to the question. If you're supposed to be in charge, if the buck stops with you, how come you can't share the answers? What are you covering up? What are you hiding, my friend?
I'm not covering anything up.
Then why can't you answer a simple question?
I would leave it to the criminal investigation to answer questions related to that.
When you talk to the FBI and you ask them how many explosives, well, let me ask you, did you ask them how many explosives were on the roof? Did they answer that question? Or in the car, excuse me. Did they answer that question for you?
Yes.
Yes. So you know the answer to that question that my colleagues have asked you. But again, you refuse to give us the answers. You're playing this wasn't me. Well, I submit to you, if you can't, and it's not a can't, it's a won't. It's not a can't. It's not a I don't know. It's a I choose not to answer the question. Well, let me tell you, Ms. Cheatle, if you're going to lead, you need to lead. If you want to be in charge, then answer the question or step aside and have someone with the courage and the guts to answer to the American people the questions that they deserve answers to. And with that, I yield back.
Director Cheatle, I just want to kind of get an idea of what you can answer, because outside of what the FBI is responsible for, you have full responsibility for the Department of Secret Service. So the question is, what is the mission? Who defines the mission?
Our mission of the Secret Service is to protect the president, the vice president, their immediate families, presidential candidates, the former presidents, and those by executive order. And we also have an investigative mission.
And those are well defined?
Yes.
Everyone within the agency understands the mission?
Yes, they do.
What about protocols and standards? Who defines the protocols and standards?
We have a number of protocols and policies in place for the various missions that we have.
So would it be safe to say that you failed the mission, the ultimate mission?
I have stated repeatedly here today that there was a failure.
What about specific failures within protocols and guidelines within the agency?
Again, I am certain that the investigation that is being conducted internally as well as the external investigation.
You said earlier in the hearing that there was either a communication, there was errors in communication or in operations. Could it be both? In both errors in operational decisions and errors in communications?
I think the investigation potentially could identify both.
So I want to talk about communications. Representative Boebert asked earlier about using encrypted apps, that you said you've not used, I guess, Signal. Have you used any encrypted app to communicate from your personal device?
I do, on occasion, use encrypted apps to communicate.
So you use some form of an encrypted app to communicate with people within the federal government, with local law enforcement? Whom are you communicating using the encrypted apps?
Many times it's with colleagues and associates.
So you're communicating with colleagues on a personal device?
There are times that the Secret Service, when we work internationally with some of our partners, that they don't have the same texting capability.
And you're not able to do that with your government issued device.
Recently, we have been able to install some of those apps on government devices.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the things that we can get access to. I'm actually shocked that you are using your personal device and encrypted communication tools. I think that might be the most shocking thing that I've heard today. I didn't expect for you to say that. We have requested, this committee has requested multiple documents, and this is not, under the purview of the FBI, this is under your purview. We requested a complete list of all law enforcement personnel, including Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security, local law enforcement with the roles in protecting the president, and we requested that to be, for us to receive that by July 18th. Did you provide that?
I believe that our agency is in the process of collecting all documents.
So you have not provided it. How long does it take to determine who the personnel were that were on site?
We are collecting a comprehensive list of all the documents that have been requested.
We also requested all the audio and video recordings that your agency, not the FBI, but your agency has in possession related to the event. Did we receive those? Have you provided those at all?
We are in the process of collecting all documentation requested.
You're in the process, but you have not. Any memorandums or any internal communications related to the event? We requested that you provide that. Have you provided any of that?
We are in the process of collecting the information that has been requested.
Okay. So when can we expect to receive these documents? How long does it take to determine who was on site, who was being employed to be there to protect the former president? When can we expect that? How many days does it take to provide that information?
We want to make sure that we have a comprehensive accounting of all of the documents that were engaged in that day, and we will make them available as soon as possible.
I think transparency is the key here. It's shocking to me that we are communicating in a encrypted app to colleagues. I'm almost certain that violates some federal laws.
I would like to clarify, you didn't ask me whether my communications were government work related or whether they were personally related.
You're communicating with colleagues.
I don't communicate government business with colleagues on a personal device. I communicate on my work device.
Are you using an encrypted device on your work device?
I am not.
No encrypted apps?
No, I do not.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The role of the federal government. We expect Harris to be tough against Trump. The campaign says that there is no better place for her to make this case than in Wisconsin, where, of course, the RNC was held just last week.
All right, and John, what qualities does the Harris campaign need in a running mate? I mean,
when you look at the battle, O'Brien on Capitol Hill. We're coming to you now with breaking news here on ABC News Live. Two sources have confirmed to ABC News that Secret Service Director Kim Cheatle, has resigned in the wake of that assassination attempt on former President Trump just about a week ago, and the Secret Service's handling of security around that venue in Butler, Pennsylvania. It was an open-air venue, remember, the gunman able to get on a rooftop with an AR-15 rifle and get off rounds before he was killed by a Secret Service sniper. Here on Capitol Hill, there has been a repeated calls for Cheatle to resign, particularly from House Republicans and at least one congressional Democrat. They have said there was a failure. They have said that the Secret Service was responsible. There was one lawmaker when Cheatle testified here on Capitol Hill that said that she looked negligent because former President Trump survived. But if he had been killed, that bullet again, just less than an inch away from his head, she would be, quote, culpable. I just spoke with House Speaker Mike Johnson moments ago. He gave us live reaction to this. He said, in a sense, that it was about time, that he wanted the Secret Service director to resign. He said that he met with her privately yesterday before she gave testimony to the House Oversight Committee. And he said that he told her that she should take responsibility for the failures, he says, of her department, that the buck essentially stopped with her. And he called on her in person to resign. He echoed calls he's already made. We want to bring in Elizabeth Schulze now, who's live for us at the White House, who has reaction there. Elizabeth.
Well, Jay, you know.
Yeah, so real surprises she had to resign from that post.
So is that it? Is like, my question is like, Is this the accountability? You resign and off you go, end of story. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like the Olympic torch. They pass it on because you're going to see Christopher Wray, who she deferred to. She kept saying the FBI has all the answers. And we'll see whether or not they had the answers. But
yeah, I wonder what's going to happen. Let me guess.
Now, as far as the former director, luckily there's a new pharmaceutical that just came on the market that might help. And LD has like the premiere of this wonder solution for people that you might know have TDR. Let's check it out.
Strike three! I used to believe everything I'd see on the news, but that's before I discovered a brain.
A brain is meant for everyday use. Those living with moderate to severe stupidity have seen immediate improvement in common sense with a brain.
I thought the government had my best interests at heart, and then a friend told me about a brain.
Talk to your doctor about what news sources you obey. A brain may also lower your desire to take life-altering advice from celebrities.
Getting lectured about my carbon footprint from people with 3 private jets used to make sense. But thanks to a brain, now I can think for myself every day. When my disregard for 3rd grade biology began to flare up, I knew it was time for a brain.
Do not try a brain if you're allergic to a brain. Common side effects may include accountability, discernment, homeschooling your kids, a better understanding of economics, awareness of the stupidity of socialism, and diarrhea.
For tethering yourself to reality, the only no-brainer is choosing a brain. Ask your doctor if a brain is right for you.
For more information, visit tryabrain.com.
Just thought that would be helpful. Just trying to lend a hand to their investigations. Maybe a brain would be useful. Maybe
a soul.
Maybe
a soul.
Anyone?
Twice a year, I teach a course called Autonomy. It's a 12-week course. It teaches leadership, entrepreneur skills, executive skills, all these types of things that I saw were taken out of our education system in order to make the schooling or indoctrination system that we've all probably went through. And it has served us well enough to be interchangeable cogs in the machine of the globalists. But if we want a homestead, if we want write our own ticket, work from home job, work from anywhere type of situation, they're not exactly handing those out at the end of college. They give you a piece of paper and they're like, good luck. So reality is dropping us off here, but the demands of reality are up here. So I created Autonomy to help people close that gap for themselves so they can level up their skills to the demands of the situations that life is putting in front of us presently. Life's demands of intellect and understanding precision and complexity are ever increasing. The schooling didn't prepare us for it. The media is not going to do anything but reinforce what schooling prepared us for. And so we're going to have to take a leadership position and take steps off the beaten path to kind of blaze our own trail in life. What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day You could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man. Come